Hi, everybody, and welcome back. My name's Liam. We've got Richard on the screen right now, and we are talking about Costa Rica's Call Center.com. There are multiple Costa Ricas. You got to make sure, and he owns all of them. He is going to be talking to us about something that is really actually not paid attention to that often. We've literally, Richard, it's been funny. We've had probably about 10 podcasts out of the last 20 where I have been talking to people about artificial intelligence and where it's going. And in our pre-interview, it was really interesting because you're like, listen, everyone's going this AI direction, but there's still something for people picking up the phone, interacting with people, the old school way of doing business, which I completely agree with you. I think it's nothing but relationships. So we're going to be talking about how to build relationships as it applies to not just the BPO industry, but just business in general. Richard, I'm so excited to be able to get into this. First question that I have for you, why are you so incredibly well dressed all the time?
Just in case our mothers show up. But then again, it's expected of me. That's
You
supposed
know,
to.
I think you probably have, you're in the top 5 percentiles of best dressed people that have ever been on this podcast. So
I
I'm
do
super
fruitcake.
excited. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Hey,
I
Liam, I can't
actually,
thank you enough. I'm so happy
yeah,
to be here on this, future workforce podcast. And why do you ask, do I dress this way? Because most things are virtual, and
yeah.
you don't see people. And so if I
Right.
do have a chance to spend time with someone, I kind of want to be at my best.
I love it. I actually am at my other best, which is I have my outside merch time doctor on the outside, and then I've got my running remote merch on the inside. So this is my business attire that I usually use every time that I go to work, and I do work from home. Not many people know this, but specifically as I work from home, when I put on this type of T-shirt or hoodie, it is a Pavlovian trigger for me to actually say I am at work. So it's just a very cool psychological trick for me to say, when I have this stuff on, I'm at work. When I take it off, I'm out of here, right? I am working. I'm back in my home, spending my time with my family. But Richard, first question that I have for you:
Sure.
what's the company? And we know where you're located. That's pretty clear based off of Costa Rica's call center. But in a couple sentences, what does the company do?
Well, we're near shore because we're located in Central America. We're on the Mountain Time Zone. Costa Rica's call center, it's a dedicated call center with bilingual agents. What we do is we assist clients with lead generation, sales, and appointment setting, inbound customer support, non-office back support. And so what we are able to do is we're able to give you all different types of services to offset what you're doing at your home office, or just by having our infrastructure and our discipline and the labor pool, we might be able to match or even exceed what you're doing there. And really it's an investment in a process. Hollywood glamorizes the call centers like the Wolf of Wall Street and Boiler Room. And sure, there's some places that, sling stock and do sports books, casinos, pharmacies, and sweepstakes. But guess what? I'm a guest in the strict Catholic country, and I have a reputation. So I think one of the greatest things you can do as a business owner, an entrepreneur, just a long-term player, is just to make sure that you don't compromise ethics, values, and morals. So you can have people that will be with you for a long time and help add wind in your sails. So in a nutshell, my friend, I sold my soul to work in the call center industry where most people burn out. I thrived. And so just like in The Gladiator, I became my own prince. So here I am today.
So how many years has Costa Rica's call center been operating?
Come February 6th, we'll be celebrating 16 years, but I've been in the industry for 23 years.
Wow, 23 years. I mean, we could probably fill the entire podcast full of just that. Top 3 kind of big changes that you've seen in the industry, or maybe even top 1.
Oh, the number one thing is COVID. It used to be brick and mortar, a lot of synergy. That's why I was big on the game room here with pinball machines and air hockey, so
Right.
people can let off steam and meet people from other departments. That was taken away. And so even though I've created a company culture, it's just not the same. I used to love to break bread with people, do a lot of soft skills on-site training, just to give you a high five and call you a champ on a Wednesday.
Right.
Those things, as I mentioned before, it's taken away. So But then on the flip side, the agents are accustomed to working from home. I'm thankful that our infrastructure enabled me to survive and do this.
Sure.
And now the labor pool is about 80% virtual, and they have the metrics to back it up. So that's the number one challenge I had. I guess I'm a little selfish. I miss the people, and I love that sort of environment. But also the technology. It's incredible how people used to manual dial back in the day off the Cisco phones. And now you have predictive dialers and smart dialing, which is great. People do text blasting. That's fine. It's different from the fax blasting that you used to do back in the 90s. And so it's very interesting how things move. But the one thing that hasn't changed, I always believe in the verbal art of speech. A lot of people prefer to do text and chat, and that is fine. But to me, there's nothing better than that sort of interpersonal live communication between two people. There's no misinterpretation. You can catch the tell signs. And I believe that you make greater strides in building rapport and reducing any sort of defense when you get to hear somebody's phonetics and their reactions. And so the change that most companies today will reduce their staff and do more omni-channel non-voice support. And prior to this podcast, you and I were talking about how I will still have a segment of the population that will always want to press zero and speak to an empathetic customer support agent or someone that's involved in sales that can give you an upsell or work with referrals. And so I need to stress that with my clients, that the less you value your client, the less they're going to value you. So you need to go above and beyond old school style in order to have long-term relationships with your clients.
Would you say that that's the major differentiator that you have in comparison to, it seems like, as I said before, half the podcasts out of the last 20, we've been talking about the rise of AI, and you're absolutely right. We're moving away from those interpersonal relationships and building rapport with customers, which is probably not a long-term successful business model to be able to run. Because if everyone is just getting managed by AIs, then where do we go, right? Like it doesn't seem like there's any real opportunity for expansion. So is that something that you see as a major differentiator for yourself in comparison to everyone else, in combination with being near shore and on the same time zone as the United States?
It's an excellent question, Liam, and I also have to be realistic. If I don't have GPS, I might get lost. It's fun using maps back in the day, but seriously, you can save time and efforts and things like that. Plus, with the internet today, you can do your due diligence like you and I did prior. So there's a very good chance you can learn a lot more than what you've been able to do decades ago. So I'm not going to hold back from advantages or things to assist me. But secondly, I'll give you the greatest argument of all. It's empathy. I'll take 99% of the time of using an ATM machine or doing something online to save me time and to make it seamless and effortless. But if I need to speak to a doctor, an attorney, right, the accountant, or some sort of counselor or coach, the last thing I want is a robot to extend their metal hands to try to give me a hug, compared to my boy Liam that's there for me when I'm hitting a home run, giving me a high five and celebrating with me, or if I need to take a walk and talk to a best friend. And so I always believe that there will be one thing that will never be authentic in regards to AI, no matter how hard you try. It is that human connection of compassion. It's that relating to somebody when your heart is broken or when it's elated. And so as much as they're going to try to mask it, and they're going to try with skin and physical features and eye movement and body movement, which is quite interesting, it's never the same. It's almost like a metal kiss. It's never going to work. It will never actually have that sort of connection that you will have with a human being. And so I believe that people are willing, like myself, that will pay a little extra to speak to a customer support agent at the airline or at the restaurant or somewhere at the hotel. Sure. Just to have that relationship. I'm willing to pay because A, I feel better, and sometimes there's a positive escalation to where if somebody assists me, I'm capable of doing it in writing or verbally to their superiors. And so I'm able to use that sort of opportunity to give myself advantages, first class or a better seat in a restaurant, or just the benefit of the doubt in case something comes up. And so any chance you have to meet everybody and anybody from a company gives you a better chance to have that stronger relationship. And so I'm not giving you $1 million bits of advice or cracking codes. I'm just kind of going with the way that I was raised on why I was making certain decisions. And so maybe this is the sort of foundation and the bricks of how I treat people and the sort of clients that I take, Liam, that will separate me, my friend, from just the AI carpet bombing that a lot of people are used to on the internet.
So let me give you ask you a follow-up based off of that. What type of clients go for your type of approach? Are you completely anti essentially chatbot AI? Is that not something that you really offer inside of your value prop? Are you just saying, I'm going to focus on building these relationships with my customers and then by extension your customers, right, inside of the organization? Or do you provide both and just kind of counsel your customers about where they should really be going?
That's an excellent question. Let's use the law firm that I work with for an example. We have intake coordinators. So we speak to people that have been wrongly fired or have, some sort of disability lawsuit.
Jeez.
And so prior to this, they are filling out forms. The AI is in ads and click the ads and wherever they're going, well, get them and get them interested. And so as I mentioned before, to be a fisherman, I still will need my line and my hook. But It really depends on where you cast and how you want to spend your day. Yeah. And so I'm not against it. And I know that once again, it will assist me in gathering. I have no problem in the gathering. But I think there's that sort of spirituality that you have when you let go of the arrow. You have to have that sort of final connection with it. And so bring it down to the 10-yard line. Let me run it in at the end. And those are the sort of things, and I said it earlier, instead of just bringing in as many clients as I want, I usually turn down more than I accept because A, I want to make sure I can fulfill your needs. And B, I just don't want to lose the love of what I do. And if I just make it to where I'm in that sort of rotation, well, then there you go. You might as well take that forced march and see where you end up. And so I'm willing to almost risk my career and also my sanity to try to still believe that there is a portion of the society that still wants to have this sort of first-class experience. But I tell you what, if I had my agents digging all day to look up information on a company, that would waste so much time and effort. It would burn them out. The morale would be low. So as I said before, my friend, I'm more than willing to use the technology to get me to the beach, but I'm still the one driving in the convertible. That's all.
Got it. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think that when you just stating that really fires off a couple light bulbs for me. I appreciate speed more. Like, I'll trade time for money almost all the time. So I'm thinking to myself, I have a personal banker, Vicky. Shout out to Vicky if she's listening to this podcast. I pick up the phone. I say, Vicky, I need to wire money to this account. Vicky says, cool, done. What's our password? I give her my secret password and then it's done, right? It's just instantaneous. And if I had to work through some type of a system to be able to do that or go down to the bank or do it online, it's still not even as fast as just having that relationship with Vicky. I remember one specific instance where I was in Hong Kong, and when you bank with my particular bank, because I was out of Canada, which is where I was located, it locked me out of my account. And I would have never been able to I had to go through like a KYC, two-factor authentication process. But then I just called Vicky and I said, Vicky, I really need to wire this money now. And it was just instantaneously completed. And when you think about the value that generated for me, I mean, it's just in terms of me being able to make decisions quickly, move fast. And not only that, you just laid out the top three people where I value their time the most: accountants, lawyers, and bankers. Those are the people that I all talk to in person. I don't actually interact with them digitally because I just don't have the time to be able to deal with that type of information. I need that feedback loop to be so quick. So it's interesting that you're going through this and discussing it. And I initially thought to myself, oh, maybe I don't necessarily believe this, but then just reflexively, I'm like, well, actually, I do talk to all those people and have those personal relationships. And even having the assistance, the infrastructure around those people is so important to be able to have a long-term sustainable relationship. My question that I ask off of this, I went on a huge diatribe connected to this.
Yeah.
What does your growth look like in comparison, and who are the customers that you're saying no to? So I'd love to hear kind of like, because you said that you say no to a lot of customers. What isn't a fit for Costa Rica's call centers?
Sportsbooks, casinos, stocks, pharmacies, and sweepstakes. That's number one. Plus,
That's amazing. I love that.
I can rattle that off like George Carlin's bad words.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, and it's very interesting for me. I almost feel like Sam Spade in the Maltese Falcon. I love when clients come to me and offer. There's always a mystery. There's always a riddle to be solved. Now, you're in my wheelhouse. So if you're explaining to me certain metrics, X amount of calls per hour, contact conversions, talk time, wrap-up time, things like that, I know how to dissect it. So if you try to over-exaggerate Jasmine's performance, I'm going to catch you. And then if you're not backing it up with certain rebuttals, rhetoric, voicemail, and email templates, I'm going to call you out. Mm-hmm. And so these are the sort of things I need these resources to start strong. And so, but I do get certain calls, and I'm not going to name names, where they do want me to be a fall guy, or they're asking about the legalities of being in Costa Rica compared to the United States for the do not call list, or
Sure.
other types of email and text blasting. And I listen, and I wish them well, and I let them know, unfortunately, it's not the right fit. And then they start hitting up on my, my abilities. Well, I thought you're the best call center. I am. It doesn't mean that I'm going to get in the dirty water. I mean, it's
Right.
Why would I compromise my ethics values for you? Mm-hmm. And I live here, and I see these people. And so for the fact that you would want to do something like this, once again, it's not a good fit. But I also have other tests that I give. I like when clients meet other individuals that work with me, human resources director, CTO, and floor supervisor. Liam, I like to see how they treat them. It's almost like undercover boss. You know that the human resources director is my wife. She's also my partner in this. She started this business with me, Grace Bourbon. Mm-hmm. So when clients come down and maybe they brush her off or do not take her as seriously as they should, that to me is a really good sign. I don't need swagger. I don't need somebody coming in here making a muck of things. This is a very delicate environment where attrition is real, and I compete against Amazon. I don't want a forced attrition where you give someone a walk of shame or make them cry on the floor. I don't need an overzealous supervisor that likes dropping F-bombs, and whatever he does in Chicago, New York might not work here. So everyone needs to slow down and calm down. Listen, I'm willing to readjust the tones and share what the labor laws here and to make it work. But I'm not going to have you come in here and just ruin things. It just isn't worth it for me. And I also like when people, as I mentioned earlier, are prepared. Now, if you're coming to me from scratch, let's say you're a real estate guy working out of your house, having a good year, but you want to double the stuff, well, be forthright with me. Just say, hey, Richie, I just don't have the script written down, but I know it by heart. Okay, let's put it down. Let's talk about your top 10 rebuttals. Let's maybe do some mock calls and role playing so the agents can listen to you to imitate and to ramp up quicker. There's just so many ways that I can marinate this and use the other resources I have, the other mediums to compare. It's quite simple. I just think people need to have extremely realistic expectations and allow people to find their footing and their balance in order for them to get comfortable and to expand. Because I just don't want to break them. I mean, these are young, the average age is 24 years old. These kids are having the best time of their life. They're bilingual, Liam. It bears the mark of higher education, and they're making some pretty good money down here. So all they're doing is out living life. And so what I'm hoping to do is to recharge their batteries here, so whatever sort of challenges they have outside the office, they could confront this, because a lot of the crap that they deal with outside the office, they bring in here, and then it ruins the day. And so it's almost like 13th grade. You have to really get people to relax, almost like you were mentioning earlier, putting on your certain shirt, you become Superman. I need people to be pure here and sacred on the phone so they can maintain that sort of mental balance. I think that's the future of where the workforce is going to be. This is not a one and a done. People have to really think about their long-term plans and what they're willing to sacrifice and what they're almost willing to die for. They need to do this today and make these decisions now, because if not, 2 decades will pass and then you wonder where the time goes.
You're bringing something else up that I'll definitely ask you now. Is it sounds like a lot of this is tied back to kind of like a mission, vision, values. What would you say is the culture of the company? Do you have that type of documentation laid out, and if so, what do you talk to your staff about with regards to the culture of the company?
I got to follow the labor law so you get your salary and benefits and stuff. But
Sure.
remember Willy Wonka? Come on, you need to have a river of chocolate. I mean, you got to do something. I'm very much into gamification. I'm a classic collector of pinball machines and retro arcade machines. So that was extremely important for me, that there's recess here, so people can really make friends and have fun and try games they haven't tried before.
Okay.
But how about this, my brother? This is a great way to filter potential candidates, because everyone fills out the resume with the shiny objects, the bells and the whistles and the promises. Blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I want you to turn the piece of paper over. And why don't you give me a coming of age moment, a hero's journey. Let me know the time when you beat up a bully or saved a kitten. Why? Because Liam's going to ask you a zig and a zag question before he signs that $100,000 contract. He wants to know if you have depth. Are you just so well rehearsed, or can you be a painting and actually be unique in the moment? And so if I can't get people to disclose a little bit with me, become vulnerable, so then we can make them powerful, then they're not the right fit for me. They're going to be a mercenary. They're going to stay here for a little bit, find a job that pays $10 more, peace out on me without a 2 weeks notice. Next thing you know, character during chaos, I'm showing the client how I handle these situations to even make it better. And then we can talk about that on another podcast. But this generation, because they have the leverage, and there's so many call centers here, Amazon is here, HP, Intel, Oracle, they can get hired. And so I'm not going to beg them to be here, but I'm also not going to let them run amok. I mean, we have responsibilities. And so maybe by calling the balls and the strikes, you ask about my company culture. Maybe I'm the first boss to ever tell you how it is. Maybe I'm the first one that shook your hand on the first day, properly introduced myself, played pinball with you. Why? Why not, brother? That's all I got. And I think that if I can make core connections with you and anchor with you in certain ways that nobody else has done in the last 5 jobs you've been at, then maybe you might take me seriously. Allow me to coach you, be a squire to a knight. And maybe, as we mentioned earlier, paying it forward. Not financially, I'm going to give you your money, but I'd like to make you more self-reliant and self-confident. More marketable, Leon. So you can grow with your own life and become a future leader. That's the mission, man, because you can make so much money. And how many dinners can I eat? I mean, so you get not bored, but complacent. And there's other things that have larger value than something that anybody can get, which is money. I want to see if I can do something bigger in my life than just what my family and friends expect me to do. This was a gift that was given to me, a 1 in a million shot. I cannot believe I married the girl of my dreams and have a company. Made my parents proud. So what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to give until I can't gives no more. And that's when people will really look in my eyes. And it's not a company culture. It's a stage, man. It's that stage you're deciding to go into. And they get it. And I'm probably about 90% accurate on this. And the 10% is their own guilt. They can't come and shake my hand and say that they had a good run with me. And I understand life happens, but we started strong. Why can't we end strong? What's up with you? And so that's the side of things I call people out on. And maybe that's just how I was raised, but I just know about a spit handshake. That's your word. And you better hold on to it because that's all you got.
Right. We have a company value called missionaries, not mercenaries, which is for us actually one of our most important values. It's not getting just a paycheck. It's something more than a paycheck. What are you really, truly interested in doing? And for us, it's facilitating and executing on the mission of the company, which for us internally is we're trying to empower the world's transition towards remote and distributed work. It's been the mission that we've had for the past 15 years inside of our organization. We were doing it way before COVID. Obviously, COVID changed all of those things, but having someone that's focused on being a missionary, spreading the word of the mission, as opposed to a mercenary, there's plenty of places where you can get paid. You can get paid at other companies for probably way more money. But the reality is that if you focus on people being very passionate about the mission, drinking the Kool-Aid of the company, then you retain a workforce that I think is there for more than just money, which is by extension just better, solves a whole bunch of other problems that, you know, we could probably fill a 3-hour podcast.
No, but I got something
Yeah.
easy. Since we're linguists here, and it is considered a luxury trade. I mean, yeah, no one wants to work at a call center, and no one wants to work. But if I'm able to assist them in diplomatic and strategic vocabulary, composure, then I might be able to save a marriage and allow them to expand in regards to their social network. And so it's not like learning how to cook and burgers and stuff like. I believe that these soft skills that you have in abundance, my good friend, that is what we're doing here. So happy, they make happy circle. That's the way I see it, man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that's also a really valuable. I never really thought about those soft skills being super applicable to the contact center industry, but you're absolutely right. Particularly when you're talking about front office, it's just like, can you get people on your side that are picking up the phone saying, I'm angry and I'm not very happy and I need to be able to, you need to be able to work that person down. Right?
It's like
having
fire,
that
man.
ability is
Stop,
so
drop,
hard.
and roll. I mean, you're getting the shrapnel. You know what? I love when people share things with me, and the first things I will thank you for sharing that with me. Doesn't mean I agree with it, but I'm going to let you know I understand your position. And then the third thing, allow me a moment to fix it. And I've been able to reduce, as you know, the ego defense from a 10 to an 8 to a 6 to a 4, hanging around the 2, moving that 8 adjustment forward into forward momentum. That's inbound support. And so I think if you show active listening, and I think so they don't have to repeat. I hate hedging. I don't like okays, and thank you, because the information they give you may or may not be good. So don't say wonderful or great, because that could piss them off. That's usually when, unless I'm mirror imaging happy anniversary, they hit the lottery, that's one thing. Most of the time it's robotic, it's monotone, and then at the end you thank them so you can checkpoint it and move forward. That's what we do. I like using names for transitional sentences, right? Just to make, Liam, it makes sense, right? Or sounds good, right? These are the checkpoints.
Sure.
Then also the personal pronouns like a your or an are. These are non-visual ways to get people's attention again in between these sentences to give you the balance, because if not, their 30 seconds attention span goes out the door.
Right.
And so these are certain things. Instead of a 10-minute conversation, it's really 20, 30-second conversations. And we could break that down, just the checkpoints. And I also believe if you're making outbound prospecting calls, you do company name spikes initially. You should say the name of the company, like the Future Workforce podcast. You say it better than the person answering the phone. And so you're using your anonymity initially for something you're familiar with to anchor. I'm not anonymous the whole call. That's shady. But I will let you know that I know where I'm calling. So then you go from a 10 to about a 6 and then asking me, Who are you? And then it's a buffer boomerang technique. I buffer the negative, give you the name drop. Liam, that's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. You start sending it back. And then when I get transferred, I'm going to let you know verbally that you were great before you gave me the pass to pitch. Once I get the guy, Mr. Jones, on the phone, prior to that, it's not a company name spike. It's a positive escalation spike. I'm going to say, Mr. Jones, Liam's the greatest person you have working with you. I mean, come on. I do it in writing. I use military alphabet so things don't bounce back. I wanted to mention this earlier, my friend. You have IVRs, integrated voice response. You can type in your answers on the phone or speak into it. And a lot of the times they do not get your numbers or names, information correctly. And you talk about saving time, you could do that 5 times compared to having me on the phone and using the military alphabet 1 time to ensure your email doesn't bounce back and your cool first name gets spelled correctly. But how about this, my brother? Do you know how many people have served in the military or know people that have served? So when you're doing Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, some guy says they served. So then you stop for a second, you make camp, and you let them know how amazing they are. And then you wonder why you have these extra 1 or 2 minute conversations on the phone. It's not that we're wasting time, and I know you're rushing, but we're bonding. And I would love to hear about your service, and I want to let everybody know you're the man. And I do these updated third-party notes. So when we speak to you again, or if I call your company back again, you will remember me. These are circles, man. This is how you build pipelines. You're not going to, Blake, Glengarry, Glenn Ross, boiler room, close them. That's Hollywood. If you're going to call a gentleman like Liam, you need to know your parameters, and you need to be prepared for it, to leave a custom-made voicemail, a custom-made email, and hopefully buying 30 seconds of time to be able to make your point.
Yeah, no, I totally get it based off you laying everything out. When I think about the switch that you're making or the sale that you're making, you're basically selling longer average handle time for probably higher close rate, higher MPS, all of these metrics that are truly important in terms of building a long-term relationship with your customer. So yeah, it's very interesting. I've got some quick fire questions for you as we make it towards the end. And usually these questions, when we ask these questions, we generally would love for you to give us the first answer that pops into your head. So not the answer that pops into your head and you say, oh, I can't tell Liam that one. That's the one that I really want, by the way. So if you're game, let's go through a couple of these, and I'd love to be able to get your perspective on it.
Sure, I'll play with my id.
All right,
we'll
perfect.
Go with my identity. I'll take the ego and persona out. All right, let's just go with it. Go.
Let's do it. All right, so first question. What counterintuitive advice would you give to other BPO contact center founders to hit the kind of numbers that you've hit inside of your business over the last 24 years?
Empathy. 1,000%. Because when I first got to Costa Rica, I worked at my friend's center for 4 years. So I sat with the proletariat, not C-level, inside out. I learned the industry. Fine. That's the added bonus I got. But the number one gripe, they felt expendable. They felt like a number. They did not have their dignity. So, if the only thing I need to give you is your dignity and empathy, and that's really what it takes to get 50% there, I'm going to do it. And I'll give you extra sauce on it too.
You brought up that point yet again, and it brought me back to your conversation with your wife, Grace, who's in charge of human resources inside of the company.
My Princess Grace.
Your Princess Grace. And I have had experiences, and I can remember one very specifically in the Philippines, where I met with a whole bunch of BPO bosses, and we went out for drinks. We went out for dinner later on, and I remember we had someone that was working with me who was Filipino. And I remember this statement that just hit me. And it was such a negative experience for me that I had to actually stop the dinner. I left early. I remember they all said, "Where did you get your Filipino from? She's so well spoken." And I thought to myself, it sounds like you're referring to some cattle. It doesn't sound like you're referring to a human being. And what they didn't know is that this person actually went to, I believe it was either Harvard or Yale. Incredibly well-educated person. They just because they were Filipino, they had this mask on their face, which is reps in, reps out, right? It was just transactional for them. And because they just saw a Filipino, they didn't necessarily think, well, this person could be smarter than all of them combined, right? But it's that perception that I think is so important, and building empathy is so important, not only for your customers, but also for your clients, right? To be able to make sure that your internal employees are really happy with the job that they're doing, and there's an opportunity for them to be able to grow inside of this organization and make money, as you said before. But more importantly, I think that there was a undertone of disrespect that I see in this industry. And if I was asking myself that question, what counterintuitive piece of advice would you give other BPO founders to be able to grow your own BPO? To me, I completely agree with you. It would be to remove that subtle, subconscious sense of disdain that people have for their internal staff, that I don't see in all contact centers and BPOs, by the way. But I do see it in a large minority, which are usually the very, very big ones, where that culture has really just kind of torn itself apart, and you can't really have those people
You brought up a
build
good
those
point,
connections.
metrics.
Yeah.
Listen, me, I had to be a rebel. But how are you going to be a rebel? A passive-aggressive rebel? What do you mean? I didn't make 100 calls a day. I did 84. Ooh, you're going to be in trouble. Not really. Come on, Liam. I got the best numbers. So go figure. Stop yelling at me. I'm doing my thing. And tell Billy to stop yelling at me with his coffee breath. Tell him to go sit down and calm down. You can't rush an artist. You have to let somebody do their merit. And I believe, as I mentioned before, it's either military or a dog or a child or where you grew up. But you need to have that sort of connection to allow the agent, like break and recess. You got to allow them to have a little bit of fun during the call for a second. Because if it's stiff the whole time, it's not fun. They got to get a little freestyle. So I was a rebel that way. I did push those metrics without getting me in trouble, and I was trying to prove a point. And I did. And so, yes, my friend, there are certain ways you can readjust the mass without hurting anybody.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Next question that I've got for you here.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you made in your business?
That's very simple. It was really about putting the wrong people in certain positions, because it's a lot of it's maturity. And you were mentioning before about how people look or where they come from. Well, you should really judge somebody on their skill sets. And so I did the wrong thing. I know bringing in specialists for IT and for the accounting and human resources, I'm cool with that. But supervisors, no. Someone needs to earn their stripes. And someone definitely needs to earn the respect of those that are around them. Because if you bring somebody else on the outside, it just, in my experience, it never worked. And so I'd rather have somebody that grows with the company and learns as they go along, compared to some supervisor for 10 years. Who cares? You might have bad habits. And I don't want that. So a lot of my mistakes was rushing certain positions. But the good side was because I was growing so fast. So sometimes you don't have a choice. You point to the kid and you tell him to grab something and hold on to the ship.
Sure.
And then you get, but here's the best part too. During COVID, there were individuals that disappointed me. And then I had others that were brand new with the company that stepped up to the plate. And so you might want to, kind of like your dinner with the Filipinos, you might want to see where people really are in life and see that sort of transparency. And unfortunately, you needed to travel halfway around the world for a dinner, and I needed to go through COVID to see the true colors of an individual and what they're made of. And so that was my mistake. And now today I have people that are in these positions for over a decade. I have more than enough stability and plan B and plan C. But sometimes, my friend, we were just going with the grace of God, riding on fumes and hoping the next day that you have good luck like you did today. And that's sometimes the jingle in the beginning of the song. You don't know where it's going to end, but at least you pick up the instruments and you're trying. And so um, you have to be bold that way too. And also you have to be financially responsible. And so some of the setbacks that I had did not put me out of business. I was prepared for it, to hire people and to support it. But yeah, when it's labor intensive, these are the sort of things that I guess computers can work 24/7 and don't need a bathroom break or even to be fed food. And so you do have that human element that might cause surprises. So that was my challenge.
Yeah, no, I keep thinking about the old adage, no pressure, no diamonds. Sounds like COVID was a very stressful time, but it sounds like you made it through. And everyone's made one of those mistakes, giving responsibilities to people that they wouldn't have otherwise given based off of. I know for us during COVID, we grew like crazy because we're a remote time tracking tool. And that was a crazy time. Remember 2020, it was like the first 6 months we were in one of those hurricane tubes where like there's $100 bills flying around and you're trying to grab money and stuff it down into your bra. It was crazy. But then we hired a whole bunch of people and we hired a whole bunch of experts because we thought, oh, well, that's what we need in order to be able to really kind of sustain this growth. And now I've realized I shouldn't have hired probably a lot of the people that we hired during that time because they were experts, but they weren't experts at our business. So spilt milk on that one too. Next question that I have for you is, what's the biggest thing stopping you from getting to the next level in your business?
My age. Yeah, I turned 51. So, I could work for another 20 years. I don't want to. I mean, you got to figure out when you're on the back nine. And I'd like to start writing children's books and traveling the world and spending more time with friends and family. It's time. Would I have liked to have been at this level of success in my career 20 years ago? Sure, it would have been great at 31 years old to be here.
Right.
But guess what, pal? I wasn't mature enough, didn't have the impulse control to do it. And so I do believe certain things happen in life at certain times. And I would have loved to have had the finances and the stability earlier on in life, but maybe I wouldn't have found myself if I had replaced that time with this sort of structure. It's very difficult to explain that blockage of time. I needed my walkabout time. I needed my vision quest. I mentioned the hero's journey. I needed to go far, interact, and come back. And my blooming stage came a little bit later in life. Listen, I'm not mature. Look at me now. I still got games and candy behind me. I just have responsibility. But did I grow up late? No. The problem was, no, it wasn't the problem. The beauty was that I didn't stop dreaming, because there are people when they graduate college or they get into certain family financial responsibilities that the game is over. They got to just do the grind and do what's expected of them. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to grow up so fast, but then again, I didn't want to miss out. And so I guess I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And fortunately for me, my main man, at 27 in August of 2000, I had this chance to come to Costa Rica. And I had to get past some parents' guilt. And I had to pass on continuing to work in a family business, which was plug and play. And I don't know what I was thinking then. Maybe I was following through when I graduated high school at the proud Abington in Northeast Philly, where I wanted to be a Spanish major. And I didn't go to Harvard or Yale or Columbia, and I didn't study law or medicine and finance. I wasn't mature, I didn't have the grades, and I didn't know where the hell I was going in life. I knew this. If I learned Spanish, I was the only one out of my friends, so you kept asking me what separates me from. It wasn't separating to be bad, or the point of saying not do. And sometimes the genius or the risk taker is exceptionally misunderstood. I couldn't share notes with anybody about being a Spanish major or living in Spain for a year or even moving abroad and starting a call center. My dad, to my uncles, to their contacts, to all of my friends and my fraternity brothers, no one did this. No one knew what to do. So in essence, what do you do? Felt like Papillon. Just give me that little raft and I'll get off that devil's island and just see if I can live some life. But it's scary? No, it was quite liberating because I could have always gone home and worked with my parents. Sure. But I said, you know what? Let's just go for it. Let's take this shield and this sword. And damn it, Liam, let's see if I can slay a dragon and find a princess in my life. And is it being selfish? I guess. But is it also selfish to feed 150 families like I do and employ people? So it's really a trade-off of where I put my energy and my time. I'm okay with that, man. And so a lot of these questions you're asking, it's during that stages in life where I had to hold strong. And I had to have that vigor. Because there's a lot of negative Nancy's and Debbie Downers that will pull you in certain directions. And you will feel pressure.
Yep.
And so life is really a gift. It's a dream. You get 100 years. How do you want to play it? And so for me, I just wanted to freaking click my heels and dance in the rain and be that person that they write about. And, you know, when I go back to Philadelphia, I got a great cocktail story to tell. And a lot of my friends say, hey, Richie, I wish I could. I really wish I moved here, or I wish I did this, my career. And I'm the last person, Liam, to lecture them. But then again, they look at me and I look at them and they know, and I know that they know that they should have at least tried. And so I think that's what's going to give a lot of mental peace of mind to your audience, where they don't carry a heavy heart, Leon, because that's very dangerous to do. And so a lot of the stuff I have is philosophical, so I can have that endurance to make it through. Because if not, there's a lot of places you could stop, rest, and die. And I'm just not going to do it, man. I'm going to die with my boots on. And that's how you got to be sometimes in this life to future workforce. Who knows? All I know is this: I got today. And that's a blessing, man, just to be able to be where I'm at today. And if you can be humble like that, then whatever happens to you, regardless of the outcome, you can still live with yourself and feel okay.
No, it's you know, I'm 41 and you're 51, so a decade difference between us. It's interesting because even on my side, I think to myself, oh, you know, maybe I've got one more business inside of me. Because when you think about building a new business, it's essentially, at least for me, I commit to that for a decade, which is,
That's right.
It's a decade of my life to be able to actually get the traction. Everyone thinks that companies are kind of built overnight and you're a billion-dollar unicorn. Not really. It takes a decade to really kind of get to the traction in which everyone says, oh yeah, that's a unicorn and it just popped up in a year. Well, yeah, there was this year, but then there were the other 9 years where you had to grind it out. So it's interesting that I think that, at least to me, I think you've got a lot more time left. I hope that at 51 I can still kind of think to myself, oh, what do I want to be able to do next, and where's the next mountain that I want to climb. Last question that I have for you: what do you think that the industry needs to do differently? So I had counterintuitive advice at the top to give to BPO founders to hit the targets that you've hit. What do you think the industry needs to do differently in order to really either make the industry better, grow the industry, whatever floats your boat?
It's quite simple. It will reduce attrition and give more satisfaction. It's just the soft skills. I think people need to really focus on their vocabulary. Whip out a thesaurus. Take out the word like help. Put in assist, guide, and lend a hand. Stop telling people you're sorry and excuse me. Say for my clarification. Learn when to fall on certain swords to be able to maintain a positive tone. Take copious notes. I mean, these are the sort of things to enhance the customer support experience.
Right.
That's it. For the agent to be more satisfied, the client to be more satisfied, the boss, when they randomly walk the rows, if they do, They can be proud of their people. And so as long as people continue to do dedicated practice above and beyond what they do at work, because they are linguists, and we have the technology where they can do self-analysis. So why don't you continue working on your skills? It's not our job, Liam, to hit the ball and drag Johnny. I can't do that. I will show you the setup. It's you that has to practice the guitar, that has to write the music, and go to those gigs where no one shows. So then after 10 years, you're playing Wembley, like INXS did. And so you really, when you listen to these bands' stories or these biographies of people, you know perfectly well, once they've made it and they made all their money, probably their greatest experience, their moment, their epiphany that they have is when they were in the darkness and then had the clarity and saw the light. When they really played that show that sucked and they decided to continue playing. Those are the mental crossroads. You don't stand in the middle and not choose. Sometimes don't choose the left. But make a choice. Be bold. I mean, enough of this nonsense already. You're growing moss on your rock. You need to be smooth and keep moving. And so I think a lot of this stuff is not taking away how we were raised. How we were raised were manners, common sense, turn-taking, real active interest in somebody, not just attention, and giving 1 or 2 additional minutes on the call so you can piss off your supervisor and let them know that you're giving better quality calls, and let them know Richard Blank in Costa Rica told you to do that, right? And if he fires you, I'll hire you, damn it. And so, as I say, my friend, don't lose the art of speech, please. And if you can keep that, sanctity, then I think, once again, there's just universal fulfillment in that sort of work.
Yeah, I love that. Art of speech. I think that you hit the nail on the head with that one. Costa Rica Call Centers, Costa Rica's Call Center.com is the URL to be able to send people. Anywhere else where we can either get in contact with your firm or you personally?
Oh, yeah. I got a huge Facebook fan page, 124,000 local Costa Rican ticos. Now, I know you said Costa Rica, but some of your audience might have not done well in geography class. We are north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. Now, Costa Rica is the only democratic society in Central America, so there's no standing army. Liam, we have a 95% literacy rate, the most neutral English accent in Central America, best infrastructure. I mentioned the companies that were here. We're known for eco and medical tourism. But when this podcast goes live, I'm going to put you out there, and you're going to have tons of new fans here in Costa Rica. And Liam, I can't thank you enough. I really enjoyed myself and sharing my tips and tricks on your podcast today.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. If you have any other questions, please let us know. We're going to put a whole bunch of stuff in the show notes so that people can listen in. And it looks like I actually have a friend that's coming in. I have my brand new 1-year-old that has, because I'm just finishing off. For anyone that's listening right now, they can't see this if you're just listening, but if you're watching, this is Kim, my second daughter, and she is, I'm realizing it's 5 p.m., so it's time for me to finish these calls. Appreciate it, Richard. Again, if anyone has any questions, just hit us up. We're everywhere on the internet. And other than that, we will see you in the next one.